If you're struggling to find motivation at work right now, especially in a software engineering role, this video will give you some practical, simple tips that you can implement that will help you become unstuck and help you make steady progress. Hey, I'm Becca. I'm a full-time software engineer and part-time Pilates instructor. Let's get straight into the video. Start by normalizing the fact that some days you just might not feel motivated. It's completely normal. Not everyone has to be at their peak performance every day. That is a very unrealistic target. So once you start to normalize this and once you accept that, it relieves a lot of pressure because you realize that not every day needs to be your best day. You're allowed to have those low motivation days and you're allowed to have days where you do less. And actually, this will help you on the days where you do feel productive and do feel motivated, because it's always useful to have a mixture, to have those low motivation days, those low effort days, so that you can give more in the days where you are feeling your best. Social media makes us feel as if we have to be motivated all the time, and if we're not, we're just being lazy, and we should instead fight that laziness and do more, and do more, and do more, and keep going. But the reality is, for most people, that is really not realistic. Motivation is never constant. It is always going up and down. And that is very, very normal. People can push through. They can stay disciplined. They can stick to routines. They can keep going even when they feel tired. But that is different to motivation. And once you realize the difference between motivation and discipline, that also helps relieve a lot of pressure because you realize that your feelings are very normal and you don't need to be, or it's impossible actually to be motivated 100% of the time. Understanding this can really change your approach to the way you work. And recognizing that low energy days are just as important as the really productive days can help you go through those days, can help you come back feeling more motivated, feeling more energized when you are ready for it. Once you've accepted that, the next step is to be able to break your work down into smaller, more manageable chunks. It's about focusing on the small and little actions that add up rather than the big projects and the big goals. Sometimes the reason we feel unmotivated or the reason we end up procrastinating is because we have so much to do, because our to-do list is super long, or because we have a big project at the forefront of our minds, or because we have a lot on our plate. And this can lead to a lot of overwhelm, which makes starting really hard. And that's why I think breaking things down into smaller, more manageable chunks is really helpful, because now you're not looking at the goal in several months' time or whatever time frame you want to think of. You're not thinking of that end goal. You're thinking of the smallest steps that you need to take to get there. So maybe you're even just thinking of what you need to get done this week, or maybe just this day, or even just this next hour. And it could be something really simple like updating a bit of documentation or replying to an email or getting a small task off of your to-do list done. If you just focus on a small subsection of your to-do list before looking at the rest of it, it will make your tasks seem so much more manageable. And if your list of things to do or your different tasks are code related, maybe it's worth, for example, just focusing on, let's say, tests for a particular method or a particular class before even thinking about the rest of it. You want to focus on that small specific unit of code to focus on. And then once you've got that out of the way, then only then you can start to think of the rest of the feature. So you focus on that small task one at a time, and maybe after that you choose to have a break or reward yourself with something small, whatever that is that re-energizes you, before then moving on. And breaking things down into these smaller, more manageable chunks really helps you make a lot of progress, more progress than you actually might realize. And actually, what you might find is that the starting was actually the hardest part. So once you've got started, you might find that you don't even need a break, and you might feel that momentum, and it might get you in the mood to keep going. It might make you feel a lot more motivated, and again, you make a lot more progress. Another thing that helps is giving myself timed slots to get things done. So setting aside a period of time, maybe 20 or a 30-minute window, to just tick off everything on this list, or maybe it's one task. You set the timer, you get through it before the timer goes off. And I feel like this is kind of giving yourself a mini little deadline, or kind of an artificial deadline. And I think it helps so much because you trick your brain into thinking that it's urgent, and you trick your brain into getting it done. I usually use this technique for jobs that I've been putting off for ages, or boring admin tasks, or just any kind of monotonous task or irritating task that's been sat there for so long. And they're usually not the hardest things to do, they're just the things I've been avoiding. And setting this time limit kind of makes you realize that if you just get on with it, it will be done so quickly and you won't have to think about it again. So I think it's such an effective technique. And it's actually a technique I use in my personal life as well, not just in work-related context, but if I need to, for example, get some laundry done or do the dishes or whatever it might be, I'll set that timer and I'll just get it completed, because I hate it when these things are just sat waiting around. And I think this technique is especially good on those days where you're not feeling very motivated, because they add a little bit of energy to the task, and it makes it a little bit of a challenge as well to try and get something completed in a time frame. Now, sometimes motivation isn't just about what you do, but it's also about where and how you work. And I think your environment plays such a big factor in how effective you are and how productive you are at whatever you're trying to do. And I think it's something that we sometimes underestimate. So personally for me, I like working from home because I often find that there's too much noise and too many distractions in an office. But I guess for you, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you feel like you need to work in an office environment or work in a cafe to find that motivation. But whatever preference you have for working, even if you're in your preferred desired setup, you can still find that motivation dips. And in those cases, I think it's still useful to switch up your working environment to what you normally go with. So going to a new environment, and even if you're working from home, just switching to a different room, or maybe switching up your posture, going from sitting at a desk to standing, or maybe switching to the sofa or the kitchen table, or even things such as switching your desk around the other way, facing the opposite direction, sitting near a window, whatever it might be, just finding those little things that can make your environment feel different. And actually, it might also help to try and match your environment to the type of work you're doing. So, for example, as engineers, we take on a lot of different types of work, lots of different types of roles and ways of thinking. So you might want to match your environment and how you're working to that. So for example, say you're working on something where you need deep focus and you're coding and you need quietness in the room. Maybe the desk setup is the perfect place for that. Maybe now you need to talk on meetings, or maybe you want to think more creatively or problem solve on something. Think of new ideas from a different perspective. Maybe you find that standing up and whiteboarding, either on the wall or even with pen and paper, maybe that is the best way to work. Maybe when you want to do some repetitive admin work or some work that doesn't require too much focus, maybe that's where you want to sit at the sofa briefly or sit at your kitchen table. Finding that right environment is a really nice way to switch up your work throughout the workday. And just like your space matters, so do the clothes that you wear in that space. For me, comfort is everything. I like to feel my most comfortable to get into deep focus mode. If I'm wearing really tight, restrictive, or itchy clothing, I can't concentrate as well and I can't get into that deep focus mode. But maybe for other people, they like to be in more formal, more structured, more put together outfits because maybe that helps them think better. And I definitely think there's different ways of dressing for different types of work, different types of thinking, different types of moods. But I think it's important also to realize that your clothing does have an effect on the way you feel, the way you work, and the way you perform. Talking to someone can genuinely change the energy of your workday. And I think there are different levels to this depending on what you need for that particular day. For example, pairing with another developer can completely change your mindset. And I think just sitting with someone, even if virtually, it can change the whole energy around you if you're sitting with the right person, that is. So it can, I guess, hold you accountable to doing better work. You feel like you have to show up in a different way because now it's not just you, but you're also impacting their work too. In the same way that you're expecting them to show up and do their part, you have to bring your part as well. And now you can't procrastinate, you can't zone off, you can't become distracted because now you're working with someone else. And I feel like this is a really, really good way to find a bit more motivation. And I also think it helps working with someone else as well because you can talk through ideas. If you're feeling stuck, maybe they have ideas in areas that you didn't think about and vice versa. You can bounce ideas from each other and move a lot quicker through things a lot of the time. But it also doesn't have to be a complete pairing session. It could just be a quick check-in call or a quick call to discuss your ideas or discuss anything you're stuck on. And even just having a quick brief discussion can help, I guess, unlock new creativity and new thoughts. And hearing someone else's point of view can help you see their perspective, can help you see a problem from a different angle, and it might help you see things differently. And then the next level down, maybe it's not even as much as that. Maybe it's just the simple idea of sending a message to a teammate or to someone more senior than you and just letting them know where you're at, letting them know, hey, I've started on this piece of work. I will check in with you when I've reached this point. And that adds that accountability without the extra time for the meetings. A simple message like that can do so much for your motivation. All of these things I think work because they're very low pressure, but they also bring that human connection back into your day and bring that accountability. So I really think the idea of engaging with people, discussing and just checking in with people does so much for your motivation. When motivation is low, it's easy to get stuck in the mindset that nothing you do actually really matters. And that makes your motivation dip even lower. So when you're feeling like that, I think it's really useful to try and reconnect with why you're doing certain things. And it could be as simple as to improve at a certain task or to benefit someone in your team or to help the customers or the end users. And whatever level it's at, reconnecting with the why can be so helpful. You can't always force yourself to feel excited or force yourself to be motivated suddenly. So having that extra meaning behind your task can really help push you forwards. And even if the reason behind your work doesn't feel super obvious at first, or it's not making a massive impact to the end users, it can still have benefit in some way. So even if you're thinking of just a small task that can make an improvement slightly better, that will still benefit you in the long term or will benefit a team member, then that is also motivation to continue as well. And the why can also be about your own personal growth or about helping your team. For example, maybe the task can help you learn something new, can help you strengthen a skill or see something in a new way. Or maybe it's about teaching someone else and helping them progress. I can guarantee that most things you do will either be helping you or the people around you and will help you learn something new. Personally, I found that if I just reframe tasks in terms of thinking about the outcome or the impact that it's having, it helps keep me a lot more motivated. And another thing is if you get recognition for that work. So I think it's always good to share what you're doing, because seeing other people benefit from the work that you're doing is also such a valuable thing to feed off of. You feed off of that energy, and that also keeps building that momentum, keeps building that motivation. So I really think it's important to come back to the why and the reasoning behind it, and that will help with your motivation so much. So those are some of the strategies and the things I remind myself of when I'm feeling really unmotivated at work. I hope this video helped you, and I hope it gave you some ideas of some things you can do on those days where you feel like you have zero motivation. If it did, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll leave my links in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully see you next time.